Hello.
Hey there, Steve.
Hi.
Howdy, Steve. Howdy, everybody.
Hey there, Chip.
Good. I think I want to get closer to where Randy is. He looks a lot warmer.
Well, since you always have coffee plants near you and in your pictures, if one of those berries drops on my head, does it hurt?
It could. It looks like it would. Yeah, I'm gonna go more like you.
Oh, I like yours. I'm sure I've got a Bojo slide here somewhere I can throw up.
How's the weather this weekend?
Windy, cold. I'm right. We took the dogs for a walk about an hour ago, and the wind made it feel pretty darn cold. It was a short walk.
Yeah. Nuclear wind.
A nuclear wind?
It was like unbelievably windy. I know on Saturday, got to town and all the fish huts were causing a log jam on Main Street.
Oh, were they? Yeah.
Everybody's tied them down better. It's a learning curve. We're all learning how to secure our tents so they don't blow away.
Oh, I understand. I did see some pictures of your tents. Those are pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, they're working out nice.
Now you have those over on 14th?
Correct. Yeah, on the west side of the building.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. I think those, good and authentic. I love it.
You're muted, Mike.
All right, here we go. It's a little after 2, but we've got a couple of guests on today. Dr. Ryan is normally on with us for our updates first thing, but also we have Troy Huffman from CDPHE. That's Troy. I don't know where he is on your screen, but Troy has always stayed in contact with us and given us information up here that we can lean on and kind of know how things are going. So with that, I just want to open it up to Dr. Ryan and Troy Huffman. As most of you have already heard or been notified, we were able to go back to a 25% capacity in our restaurants at 6 a.m. this morning. I called a few people myself and told them. I think Marcel, I could see him, as loud as he was screaming and yelling. He was so happy that, so just for us to be able to get to this capacity, Dr. Ryan and Troy, it lets a little air into us that maybe we'll be able to survive moving forward. A couple of other people that I asked to be on the call with us today is Craig Abrahamson and Amanda Cooper. And Amanda's from Cooper's up in Georgetown, and Craig is from the new brewery, Cabin Creek Brewery. And I just asked, and they asked if they could just, they've been told that we're the best group, the recovery task force, and that they needed to be and hear what we're doing up here in Idaho Springs. So welcome, Craig and Amanda. Thanks for joining us today. So with that, Dr. Ryan, you want to give us an update, how we got to where we are at, and what do we do from here?
Thanks, Mike. I just want to raise a point of clarification. So the email that Jonathan had sent out was actually incorrect. The county is not at level orange. As the memo clearly stated, the county remains at level red. It is only restaurants that are now allowed a 25% capacity. Huge point of clarification, just for the record.
Okay, thank you.
So as you stated, the restaurants are now able to have capacity of 25% with a maximum of 50 total in the restaurant as of this morning. That came about over the weekend. CDPHE sent a letter to myself and the commissioners late yesterday, alerting us to that. Then we scrambled to put together the memo out to everyone to try to make it as abundantly clear, specifically what was allowed and not allowed moving forward. So our numbers have more or less stayed the same. We're now hovering between 380 and 420, 450 sometimes. It really depends on which hour of which day you ask me. Our numbers continue, as I said, to maintain that. Our test positivity rate has dropped down below 6%, which is great. The closer to zero we get that, the better. We are continuing to test. This Wednesday, we'll have the curative van again in Idaho Springs. Please pre-register. It's the only way to get tested. Other than that, the biggest news I have is tomorrow, we will likely be receiving our first round of vaccines, for which we will disseminate those on Wednesday. All individuals getting those vaccines are already informed. So hopefully that will roll out without incident. And then hopefully we'll be getting vaccines each and every week moving forward. Don't quote me on that. That's our hope and admiration. We'll see what comes our way when they get there. So we're not holding our breath, but we're ready and ready to go. The analogy that I like to use, because I think everyone on this call can completely understand it. Just because the 50 acres that we occupy or 50 square miles that we occupy and we can't see any smoke and there's no fire, the rest of the country is an inferno. Watch the news, or better yet, go to an informative website like the Johns Hopkins COVID website and see what's going on in our country. Because although our little slice of the world is doing better, the rest of the country is not. We've reached milestones. Sadly, we're now in the 320,000 fatalities. Remember when it was just one and no big deal? Now we're across the 320,000 Americans dead and counting with no rest in sight. We've also crossed the greatest number of hospitalizations in a week and a day and any day, and number of cases are absolutely going through the roof. So that's what's going on across the country. Our little slice right now is doing okay, but like any forest fire, even though your 50 acres is not on fire, all it takes is an ember from those other acres over there to waft into our little land and set the place ablaze. So I would implore all of you as business owners to go above and beyond what you've been doing as best you can, because it's a matter of time before these tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people descend upon our little slice of heaven. And they're coming from all over the country where the fire rages, and they have the ability to bring that fire with them. So just keep that in mind, particularly smaller businesses where you only have 4, 5, 6 employees. If they start to get isolated or quarantined, it makes it really difficult to open a business when you have no employees to back you up. So that's where I would really put my emphasis to all of you. You want to stay open, continue to be diligent in what you're doing. Don't be afraid to ask customers to step back or move back or put a mask on or those sorts of things. It is in your right as the owner of that business to ask and to do that. Also reiterate to your employees how important it is. All of these guidance and precautions that we've been talking about for oh so long. In addition, I would ask that you relay to your employees the importance of not getting together socially for the coming weeks. It's the best possible way to get COVID if you want it, is to get together socially. You're without a mask, you're close distance, you're generally spending more than an hour or two together. It's really a really bad time to get together and socialize. I know it's Christmas, I get it, but this is the critical time right now. The numbers the way they are across the country, it's a matter of time before it gets back into Colorado to the levels we saw. With that, any questions?
Dr.
All right.
Ryan?
Chip, go ahead.
Okay, I got actually a couple of different questions. One, I'm assuming the 50 per establishment is for the whole restaurant, because at one point in time with Orange, we could do 50 per room. I'm assuming that we can't do that at this point in time.
Chip, at this point, I would ask that we keep it to 50 total, primarily because of what we're seeing across the country, and particularly these restaurants, the vast majority of your customers are going to be from elsewhere.
Okay, and I got to go on pause for a minute.
Okay, anybody else have a question for Dr. Ryan? Greg? Did you want to speak, Greg? All right.
I had a question on quarantine times. This is Sadie. Has there been any clarification? So when someone does test positive, or if we have an employee that may have been in contact, what is currently the best practice recommended quarantine time that I should be following for my staff?
Great question, Sadie. So the gold standard is 14 days. We know it can take up to 14 days for individuals to convert to positive. So that's the absolute gold standard. Right now, the only thing that we're doing to differentiate between people is if, for instance, your husband, wife, partner, whatever, people you live with are positive, we would ask that you quarantine for 14 days because you have a direct associated known contact and the probability of you getting COVID is quite high. As opposed to somebody who you may have inadvertently had a 5-minute conversation with, you're both wearing masks, you're 6 feet apart, you're a close contact, but your level of contact and exposure isn't quite what it is in the previous example that I gave. In those scenarios, we would likely give them a 10-day quarantine, but anything less than 10-day is really playing with fire, in my opinion, because it's just too short of a time frame. We know that many people convert 7 to 4, the latter half of that quarantine, and so we're not going to go under 10 days. I know the CDC has put guidance forward about 7 days with a test. That's a terrible idea. One, it's going to overwhelm our testing. Everyone now wants to get out of quarantine, so they're getting tested. The other thing is you might test negative on day 9, but in fact, 2 days later, you're positive and you're back at work infecting all of your coworkers. So we're sticking with the gold standard of 14, unless there's reason to believe that your exposure or potential is quite minimal as a close contact, but the exposure is minimal.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Anybody else? All right. Well, what I would like to, yeah, go ahead, Chip.
Okay, I did have a couple others. Unfortunately, I had a call come in that I needed to take. Looking at that MESA plan, they were talking about doing contact tracing or taking the names down of your guests that come in. Is that being would that be a good idea to do at this point in time? And also here in Maui, what they've done, they go that you go into a restaurant, you can have your mask off while you're actively eating and drinking. If you're not actively eating or drinking, they ask you to replace your mask. Would that be a good idea? Also, one other thing is, I understood there was supposed to be a test available in Clear Creek today that didn't happen. Any idea why not? There we go. Now I'm done. Thank you.
So I think go ahead, Dr. Ryan, with the testing.
So yes, both of your ideas are excellent ideas. So you should always get the names of your customers. Great way to follow up. That way, if there is an exposure, you can contact them directly. Pretty simple way to do it. Just keep a spreadsheet or something like that. Keeping it on paper is really not the best way. You're highly likely to lose it. Or if your Diet Coke spills on it, it's game over. So I would keep a spreadsheet or something like that, something that's easy to access, so that if I call you 8 days later and say, hey, Chip, we had an exposure on this day at this time frame, you could easily pick that out and let me know who was there and all that sort of stuff. So anything you can do from the business perspective to ask people to keep their masks on and that sort of thing. Again, as a proprietor of the business, it's well within your right to ask customers. That is the biggest point of risk for customers, is when they're sitting at the table for an hour, however long they're in your establishment, their masks are not on. Unless they're at a very large table, the likelihood of them being less than 6 feet is quite high. So their level of risk goes up exponentially as they sit there. So anytime they're sitting idly, not eating or drinking, to your point, it's a great time to wear your mask. As far as the Dumont testing is concerned, it was canceled because of a quarantine of one of our staff, and because of the number that we had, we thought it would be better served if they just went on Wednesday as opposed to the 10 that had registered. It's a lot of resources to pop these testing sites up, and to have only 10 individuals registered, we thought it would be better, rather than try to shift resources because of the quarantine, to just shift it to Wednesday.
Okay, thank you.
And I know the nurses reached out to almost everyone who had registered, with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions that they couldn't get a hold of.
All right, thanks for that. All right, so we all know that we're all happy that we got to a 25%. We would take anything right now. And us to be able to do that, it kind of gave us a sense of hope, if you will, you know, because I can guarantee you, I got a call this weekend from somebody not even in this community yelling at me saying, this is going to kill me. And you know who you are because they're with me today. But that's the reaction of people, you know, when you invest into your business and you can't serve anybody, you know, it's going down. So 25% start, I think we'll all take that for now. So what I'd like to do, Troy, I'd like for you to kind of speak on of what we should be thinking through as we're moving forward. There's a lot of talk from members of the community, and especially in the restaurant industry, about how we can put into place a 5-star program to help protect us for people that are going well beyond the requirements to keep everybody safe, and maybe give us an idea about this 5-star program, if you will. Is it something that we should be looking at doing? Pros and cons of it, and how do we get there in a quick and efficient way?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. To start out too, I like to say, you know, everything that Dr. Ryan had mentioned, we've just got to stick to our guns. We really, really have to do our due diligence, and you know, whatever we can as a industry, to just do everything we can to make sure that our staff is doing what they can, doing our part, to make sure that you don't shift from that orange back up to that red, how devastating that can be in the restaurant industry. And you know, a couple of things, Chip too, you mentioned. One other element that I think Mesa's program had talked about, which actually was released on Friday at the state level, was an increased HVAC, and looking at some of those as options, literally opening windows, putting a fan, getting air movement through that space within your facility as much as you possibly can to disperse that virus. That, you know, you get a house full of people, even just 25%, 50 people, the odds are going to be there that what I think, Dr. Ryan, we were talking 1 in 40 were contaminated or do have coronavirus. So it's a really good likelihood that you know, there's going to be somebody in any given day that's going to potentially have the virus. One other element I wanted to mention, and I believe a lot of the members of my retail food team that has been able to reach out and communicate to a lot of the people, and if not yet, I wanted to share this, but in the last legislative session, we had been working, a lot of you have not received invoices, which usually go out the first or second week of November for your license fees. The reason why we delayed on that, we drug our feet, is the governor wanted to initiate it through the legislative process, through reallocating some CARES money to get funding redistributed through the legislature to our program. And what we have been able to do is all restaurants that are licensed in 2020, and any bar operating as a restaurant or any bar impacted by the shutdowns, have had their license fees for 2021 waived. So a lot of the members of our team have been able to get on the phone and call several of you. If you haven't heard from our team yet, they are in the process of reaching out and getting in touch with everybody. So that's just one. I know it's not a lot, but it's a little bit that we could do directly to try to help everyone. The 5-star program, it's not really ran at the state level. I'm going to defer to Dr. Ryan and his team. That's really at the county level, where the advisory board and a lot of the information is going to need to be initiated. Summit County was on steroids over the weekend. They got their advisory team in place. They had multiple people from all of their communities at the city level in Breckenridge and Frisco and throughout Summit, and were able to actually allow some of their restaurants to move from the red level to the orange lower level. But a lot needs to be put into place with advisory committees and all those steps to be done. So that's a program that is initiated and ran at the local level. If you want additional insight, reach out to your partners, your industry partners, and see what involvement they had from the Summit County, just over the divide from you guys, and to see what they might have for feedback if you would be interested in moving forward with that. And that's all I really just wanted to share was the silver lining, the little early Christmas present for license fees. Just so pleased that we were able to get that and make that happen. Open to any questions, or Dr. Rive, if you have any additional feedback on the 5-star on that.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Troy. So from my perspective, and myself and my peers have asked for any evidence or any of the data suggesting that the MESA program, the 5-star program, was effective at reducing transmission of disease. And to date, even though we asked for it 6 weeks ago, I haven't seen a shred of evidence to suggest that the 5-star program reduces disease transmission within restaurants. So it is what it is. We don't have any resources right now as it stands in the form of money and or staff to implement such a program. And as Troy alluded to, in Summit County, it was primarily driven by the folks like you out in the community, and really how the state has tried to craft it, if you will, the program, because we didn't get any money or any staff from the state to implement such a program. So it's really driven so far in Mesa and from Summit by folks like yourselves.
So Dr. Ryan, are you saying that from a business owner perspective, if the business owners in Clear Creek County wanted to get together and donate of our time to figure out this 5-star rating, that would be what we would need to do in Clear Creek?
That's how every county has to do it, and that's the way the state set it up. There's a lot of context around it that I don't really have time to get into. The state has formed it that way because the state is sensitive to giving the departments of health around the state more work to do. We don't have time or the bandwidth or the staff to implement a 5-star program. Mesa County implements or has 4 people completely dedicated to this program. I don't have 4 people or even 2 people that I could dedicate to such a program. So the way that the state crafted it was purposeful in that it sort of requires what Summit County did, meaning it requires, that's what the committee is all about. It's about the broader community coming together to try to implement it.
So with that, I would never say that we should implement something that our public health director wouldn't support. I already know that we've got some members of the community pulling together very aggressively to start trying to get the framework together so that they can start implementing something to be perfectly honest, to try to protect us from another, outbreak that affects the restaurants, and maybe give us a little bit of grace in there to show that we can keep people safe in our restaurants. I read through some of that requirements and the way it has to, it's very detailed. There's a lot of work to do to it before we could even say, hey, Dr. Ryan, did you look at this? Are we on the right? Or Troy Huffman saying, are we on the right track here? Are we following the guidelines? And And like I said, some of the requirements of that are pretty stringent. You know, making sure you take people's name from there, walking in the door, making sure that people aren't sitting at a table with other members from different households. So it's very extensive program, and I think we all realize that the county doesn't have that bandwidth to put staff members on this. So I know I don't know a whole lot about it. I just know that there's a lot of business owners out in the community talking about trying to put this thing together and help, if you will, the county as a whole get us to a better place to protect our restaurants from another shutdown.
And Mike, just a point of clarification, I'm not suggesting that I don't think it's a good idea to implement even more stringent controls in your restaurants. Always a good idea. What I stated was I haven't seen any evidence that a lot of those that go way above and beyond help mitigate the disease transmission within the restaurant. I'm a fact-based person, and I need to see that sort of data to merit such a program. If you all collectively came together and said, hey, Dr. Ryan, we really got this package together, an application together, can you help us and provide guidance? The answer is unequivocally always, yes, I will. Be more than happy to provide guidance and any input that I can. What I'm saying is a program like that has to be monitored, and it has to be, right? Who's going to go back and do the inspections to make sure that each of the restaurants is in the 5-star program, is adhering to those. Right now, I have neither the staff nor the money to do something like that, is what I'm saying. So I don't know how many restaurants it would be actually applicable for, right? So as we discussed a week ago or 2 weeks ago, some of the smaller restaurants, having 10 feet apart, it suddenly puts 4 tables in your restaurant, which is actually less than at 25% potentially. So it's, and that's all information that all you guys have. I don't know how many restaurants would actually benefit from something like that or not, based on merely just on size. So just for the record, I'm not suggesting that I wouldn't be helpful and support something like that. What I'm suggesting is I haven't the bandwidth right now in terms of people or money to implement something like that.
And I'd like to weigh in on this as well, just real quick. I think Tim is being very responsible.
George, would you let Troy know who you are, please?
Oh, my apologies. Hi, Troy. George Marlin, Clear Creek County Commissioner. Dr. Ryan's made it very clear, and I agree with him, that he does not have the staff to do this. I don't think that means that this conversation is over. I think that the board needs to have a conversation about what kind of resources we can provide. If we're talking about new hires, then we all know what the timeline is associated with new hires. But I think that we do need to wrap our heads around who benefits from this, and how we can build something that benefits those who can. And I suspect that if there are only 4 restaurants that can benefit from it that would opt in, we might find an easier program than having to inspect every restaurant. But that's all speculation on my side. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that I do think this warrants discussion and analysis. And I, as one commissioner, am not unwilling to identify additional financial resources to make this work. I also want to just point out that we had in Summit County municipal employees jumping up to help with inspections and all of that. And so there's, I think, a lot of ways that this could look and get done. And I'm really excited we don't have to do this on a timeline like Summit did, just to get to 25%.
Absolutely. Yeah. Whenever I found out this morning, I was talking with Commissioner Hvac. He said, oh, by the way, did you know you got 25%? And I'm like, it's 10:30. I'm just finding this out. I need to see, Randy, I got to get to the restaurant and start getting things together. So yes, yeah, the 25%, this was like I said, a big breath of fresh air for all the restaurant owners, gives us some sort of capacity. One was from 0 to 31. So I could get with this, I can get 31 people in my restaurant, and that makes the difference. I don't even have to have that many. I can survive on less than that. So I'm just glad that we're to the point that we're at. Right. So now, real quick, let's go around the room. as we do every week, and just kind of tell how your weekend went, what you saw, and some things we may need to start considering as we continue into our winter season. Steve?
Yeah, the challenge this weekend was the wind was pretty strong. It was deterrent. Waking up all night long, checking the cameras, making sure our tents were still staying in the same place. They stayed. The big thing for Tommyknockers was we did get our tent set up on Friday, and there's a pretty big effort, and they were a wild success. Pretty much been booked up on the tents since we set them up. And the other nice thing is it pushed us into the later evening hours. We were dying off without tents around 5 o'clock, and now we're staying busy until about 7 with a 45-minute wait. So that's pretty much our scenario here at Tommyknockers.
All right, thank you, Steve. Randy? You're on mute, Randy.
There we go. The week overall was decent for us. It wasn't great. I guess more of a comment is kind of what's happening today with what CDOT is doing on the roads. I mean, it's just dead in. I mean, we're probably going to come in, 30% of last year with the CDOT activity.
All right, thanks, Randy. And I'll touch bases on that in a minute. Linda's one of our retail operators. Give us an update, Linda, please.
Yeah, I have Margie's Place retail shop in Idaho Springs, and our weekend was interesting. Saturday was not great, and Sunday just blew us away. I don't know what happened, but we actually beat our numbers from last year for the first time since all this happened. I think the street in Idaho Springs feels great. I love what every restaurant has done with tents. And in fact, John and I went out to eat for the first time and went to one of the ice huts outside of Mountain Prime. And it was fun. It's like being in a miniature yurt, very private and sweet. And I think people are loving it. I'm very happy about the 25% for the restaurants. I'm kind of curious about, if we didn't go from orange to red, what was the factor that gave us that 25% back? And is there any chance of it going away? I don't totally understand what the variables are there. And otherwise, I kind of said this privately to Mike, but my employees have been complaining that people are not wearing masks in Safeway. And they don't like wearing a mask at work all day and then going to pick up food. And apparently it's not being enforced. So I went down today and talked to an employee there and just asked, are you enforcing mask wearing? I saw 3 people without mask and they said, no, we are not. So that's something we're hearing a lot about.
Okay. We will talk about this because we do have our code enforcement officer is out checking and doing spot checks for compliance. So we will put this in his pocket, let him know about it. We've got to all play together. We can't be, we've got to play together to get past this thing and get it over with. And if we've got that going on, that just, it sets us back. We don't need that right now. So thank you, Linda, for your comments. Let's see who else I want to call on real quick. I always like to kind of get a quick update from Mark Grable from Georgetown Loop. You're not operating currently, is that correct?
That's correct. We're not operating, so we're focusing in on getting everything ready for next year and keeping as much of the staff as we possibly could. If you look at our payroll, we're down about 70% or so versus last year during this month, but we were operating last year.
Yeah. And just like everybody's businesses, we lean on each other. We in Idaho Springs lean on the Georgetown Loop. What's going on up there? Our retail businesses. I see on Facebook. I don't know who it was, but they said it just without the restaurants. In some capacity of operation, that affects our retail here. It's not that these. We're talking probably 65 to 70% of the people that are eating at the restaurants are buying things out of one of our retail shops. So we all lean on something. Dr. Ryan asked me to let him. He wanted to make another point real quick. Dr. Ryan.
So I'd be interested to hear what everyone thinks of this idea. One thing that I'm going to be pushing tomorrow on the BOCC call and other calls is to ask locals to not take a seat in your restaurant, to take takeout and reserve those seats in the restaurant for others who are just passing through. One, it doubles your business. They're not taking up seats that could be otherwise occupied by somebody else, just to try to increase your business even further. So they're not as enjoyable as it is sitting in your ice huts. I'm going to reserve that for somebody else to do, and my wife and I will find something else to do and take takeout instead. So just trying to promote and further your business beyond what you're doing now, and really try to get locals to not take up a seat in your restaurant to get takeout and eat that in their own home.
Yeah, I was talking to Steve Indris earlier about that, and maybe and other restaurant owners and operators can say, you know, we know that 3 to 5 is pretty slow, you know, in between our lunch and our dinner run. Maybe that's what we put them as. Hey, you want to come and sit in our in our restaurant, try to come between 3 and 5, you know, and let our busy times be for our visitors. Something like that.
I agree with that. John and I did that at 4 o'clock with Mountain Prime. And there was a conversation that we'll be out of there in time for the tourists to come through.
I don't really want to tell my faithful locals that they can't come in. I don't think I can get behind that.
Well, this isn't a demand. This is an ask. Hey.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that they should be excited to sit in one of the tents or sit outside and take out. Not take up a seat inside would be the hugest help, but don't discourage them to come in and sit in the new tents that everybody use the tents. So I actually kind of would be like, no, Dr. Ryan, please sit in our yurt, sit in our comfy little heated little space, because we're going to work so hard to have it for you, because we're way behind everybody else, but we're going to be opening up hopefully Saturday. So I just thought I'd throw that out there to support Marcel on that sentiment.
Mayor, too, there was a significant negative conversation about this very idea recently in the community, and it was very robust about how we promote tourist business over residential and local business. And I think that we have some major political concerns with something like that, just from that perspective, because this has been a major issue already in the community.
Yeah, that would be my concern
behind it, but I completely disagree. I want all the locals to come out and sit in the tents and you know, do it as safely as you possibly can. And I know we're all working super hard to make it a safe experience. So yeah, I don't support discouraging anybody from coming to any of our places personally.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm just going on what Dr. Ryan said he was going to recommend to the OCC.
Yeah, I'll stay in my lane and avoid the suggestion of when people should or shouldn't go eat. The other thing that was asked about, how did we get here? There's a famous saying, and I don't know who said it, somebody might remember, that you love to eat sausage, but the sausage making process you want to avoid because it's gross and you'll never eat sausage again. That's how we got here.
So something, Tim, that kind of is in your lane, and I think I'm hearing inside of your recommendation here, is that we want to keep our case counts low. And especially during the holiday season, if we've got a bunch of our locals in restaurants with a bunch of people from communities with skyrocketing cases, we might all do better if we let the tourists enjoy the restaurants and don't mix too much with them. From a health perspective, which is in your lane. Was that part of what you were?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's what Dr. I was alluding to. Absolutely.
And I can package it as that message and leave people to interpret it however they want. But that's, yeah.
All right. Moving forward, everybody's liking the 25%. Is there anything that the city needs to be doing, that you feel the city needs to be doing over the next several days to help out? Yay, means we're doing a good job. let's see, who else? Alyssa, are you with us?
Hello, I'm here.
Hi, Alyssa.
Hi, Mike.
I've got like 40 messages asking where our money's at. Really not 40. Do you have any idea, because nobody's receiving these checks? Do you have any
People have
idea?
received them. They are coming in. I got word from a bunch of people on Friday that they did receive them. Checks were mailed last Tuesday. All I know is that the post office is extremely backed up and we don't have trackers on the checks, unfortunately, so I don't know exactly where they are.
Another thing that Alyssa found out is that instead of it going from Georgetown to Idaho Springs Post Office, somewhere or another, I guess it was you, Alyssa, it went all the way to Denver, cycled through there.
Yeah, that's why it's getting held up. Somebody said that. I don't remember who told me that, but apparently the checks went to Denver and then came back to Idaho Springs and Georgetown. And as you guys all can imagine, with the holidays, the post office is extremely backed up right now. And so I know people are receiving them. I'm getting emails every day with people saying they have them. If you do not have them, I apologize. It has been mailed and you should have it hopefully any day.
All right, thank you, Alyssa. John Kane, do you have anything for us?
No, sir, not at this time. Just
Right.
if anybody is looking, if you are in need of another disaster recovery loan or you're interested in talking about that program to the EDC, Lindsay or myself are more than happy to talk to you about what that looks like and how it works.
Thank you, John. Lindsay, do you have any updates from the CCDC for us?
Just same updates as usual. We still have funding available for the emergency COVID working capital. It is a loan, so we do have funds if you're in need of low interest loan funds. John and I are working on some other things as far as forgiveness and grant opportunities that we're still kind of working through. Also, please visit our website, clearcreekedc.org. We are consistently posting under business resources any opportunities, whether it be a loan or a grant that we identify on our website, as well as other resources. And then we've also been working with the county on a business accreditation program. So you'll see the COVID accreditation there at the top of our website. You can click on that. That will be up and running very, very soon. And there's lots of helpful curriculum that you can check out, whether it be a TED Talk or one of the webinars that the CCDC has put on. Our final webinar for our COVID-19 web series will be tomorrow night. That will be at Wednesday. I'm messing up my days. Wednesday evening at 5:30. And that'll be our 6th webinar that we're holding. And then please keep checking. In February, we will be starting our Dream Builder web series program as well. So I will keep everyone informed on that. I think that's all I've got.
All right.
We're also moving our office to Idaho Springs, so that'll be happening in January. So come visit us at our new digs.
Is that 1601? Is that address, Lindsay?
You know, I need to double check on the address. I feel like it's 1628, but I might be wrong.
Okay. If you're not familiar, it's on the corner of 15th and Colorado Boulevard. It is a business building that used to be an old morgue a long time ago, but it's been remodeled. And that's where the CCDC will be housed at the first of the year.
So in other words, you will not find me there after dark, most likely.
So that was the Tomford Mortuary?
Do what?
The Tomford Mortuary?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. All right. We've got Dan Wester with the building department. Does anybody have any questions for Dan as we continue to set up tents, ice fishing tents, and however we can do to continue to promote our outdoor seating? Does anybody have any questions for Dan? All right. Is everybody pretty happy with what we've got going on with the barriers, the Jersey barriers downtown, how we've got it lined out, allowing everybody to use that space? Does anybody see any problems that we might need to address from a city standpoint? Okay.
Mayor?
John, you have something?
Yes, sir. I don't know if he's still here. Andrew Yard had logged onto the call. They were asking about over on Colorado Boulevard there, if we had an update on more barriers.
I am working on them. Andy,
Okay.
let's just go. Let's get John Bordoni to buy 6 of them. They can use them in public works. And the reason I say that kind of is because right now Graham and CDOT are going button heads really bad right now because, and this is a segue into the CDOT thing, is because this project was supposed to be done. And here they are telling us that they're still at least a couple of months away going into a season that they can't pave. So what they're trying to do now on the highway is get the lanes leveled out, get the bottom lift finished, and get it so that traffic can happen without having a drop off of about 4 inches in between lanes. This paving operation is supposed to go on for the next 2 days. And then we were promised that by the end of day or end of evening, Tuesday, that the construction on the main line will go away for the rest of the season, which means that no work's going to be worked on the main line, no lane closures. They will, however, be working on the median from the eastbound peak period shoulder lane. Now that's not a normal general population lane, so we'll still have 2 lanes of traffic going that way. Also, what we've been told is the on-ramp at 240 going eastbound will be open by the end of day Tuesday. So people will be able to go over there and get on eastbound going on I-70 across the bridge. So that's another accomplishment. However, we're going to have to prepare. Also, they're going to be working on our parking lot and getting that all wrapped up. What that will do, obviously, is next spring when the temperatures start rising enough to pave, they're going to have to do some more lane closures to get the rest of the highway paved out for our westbound peak period shoulder lane. But it will be April. I will stand in front of the machine. You know, we've got to get by our March and a little bit of April, and then they can do it because we know the last couple of weeks of April and first couple of weeks of May, get out there and get it done so we don't have to deal with it in the summertime. So yes, if anybody talks to Andrew Yard, I am still working on them, but it looks like now we're just going to have to, the city's just going to have to purchase a few so we can get them to them. And John, would you reach out to him later?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Real quick, we've got Craig Abrahamson on, and he's from Cabin Creek, and just kind of, give you a minute if you'd like to say something about what's going on in your community and how things are working out for y'all up there.
Thanks, Mike. And thanks everybody for allowing Amanda and I to join and listen in. We appreciate the opportunity. You guys obviously have your stuff together, and that's impressive. And we'd like to follow suit up here in Georgetown. So thanks for modeling good behavior for us. I think I speak for Amanda and our other restaurant owners here when I say that we had a really rough weekend up here from a food and beverage perspective. We sustained damage to more than half of our outdoor structures, which are ice fishing tents anchored with concrete anchors 12 inches into the ground. We lost about half of a $3,000 or $4,000 investment just at Cabin Creek alone. We went to take out only the entire weekend. So it was rough. I know Amanda has some damage too to her outdoor dining area. So it was a rough weekend, but we're having a better day today because we got in and with the good news that we were imparted by Dr. Ryan and his colleagues. And I'll take this opportunity to say a thank you to Dr. Ryan and his team. We're here through the efforts of our community as well as our public health team and our elected officials and those working in our municipal and county governments. And so thank you all for your efforts and helping us get to this point. Having said that, we're in the same boat restaurant wise in Georgetown that the entire county is. And I'm going to throw a little plug in here, Mike, if it's okay. There's been a very loosely structured conversation around the potential for a 5-star program. And really our current move to orange criteria for restaurants right now, would like to use the opportunity to continue the conversation with the business community in Clear Creek, just to work out whether or not it's an effort worth undertaking. I've been very closely monitoring Summit County's progress. I've been monitoring Larimer County's efforts, although they're not in a position really to move to 5-star yet. Anyway, I think a number of us are fairly well versed on it, and anybody who's interested in joining our working group, again, it's not a 5-star program group or an administrative committee or anything like that yet, but it's a group of business owners that can talk about it and maybe vet out some issues. And so you can reach me. I'll put it in the chat. It's Craig@CabinCreekBrewing.com. You're welcome to join our conversations if you're interested and offer your ideas and thoughts on how and if moving forward makes sense for Clear Creek. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Amanda, would you like to say something?
Well, just I'd like to echo Craig and thank you for allowing Craig and I to join the conversation. And again, I thank you to Dr. Ryan and the commissioners for really working hard for us this weekend. We had a really tough weekend as well. We had, unfortunately, some wind damage that hurt our deck and our heaters pretty badly. And then people that tried to tough it out didn't hang as well as they had hoped. And we ended up with several tables that left, and their food was already put in, and they ended up not paying for their food because they didn't want to eat. So we had a tremendous amount of food waste. We actually closed early on Sunday night because we just kind of gave up. So it was really great news today to know we had 25% indoor capacity. We are in the middle of sanitizing and prepping our dining room for that to happen tomorrow. And we're really grateful that we have some opportunity to move forward. And we're definitely interested in a continuing conversation with this group as far as what we can do to work together in the spirit of community. We obviously both have great cities and towns that we represent, and we want to have this whole county be the best it can be. And we're very appreciative that we get to be a part of this conversation with you guys. So thank you for including us in the
Sure, you're
Georgetown
welcome,
perspective.
Amanda. Thank you. All right, I'm going to leave the last few minutes for just to open up for conversation amongst us with some ideas. We still got Troy Huffman on and Dr. Ryan. If we have any other questions for CDPHE and PhD. So tables open.
Excuse me. What's the best resource on what the 5-star, the very specifics that Summit County released? Is it a state issued thing and they went along with it, or how'd that even come to be? I know Mesa started it early on.
Yeah, Mesa started it early on as a way to get businesses, restaurants, et cetera, online with the guidance that they were putting out and tried to provide the best possible protection out in the community. And the governor caught wind of it 2 months ago or whatever, and instructed CDPHE to look into it. I don't know the specifics around what CDPHE looked at to determine whether the program was useful or effective in what they were trying to accomplish. And as I stated, we had asked the public health directors across the state for that data that they were looking at to determine whether it was worthwhile or not. Because we don't really have bandwidth to look into things. We need to get things, the information given to us so that we can process it most effectively. So, and then what came out was CDPHE recommended the program and left it up to the counties and the different municipalities to implement it. I know some of the larger counties that have larger cities in it, the city itself can opt into the program and do it in that fashion. It isn't a county-wide program. And the way they made it was, to everyone's point on this, was to really have it an organic start, that it isn't coming out of departments of health and running it. It's more of an organic thing that comes out of the municipality or out of the broader community that's out there.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Dr. Ryan. Okay, anybody else? All right, as you know, we're moving into our Christmas week. Usually Christmas week, and in between Christmas and New Year's is one of our better weekends and weeks. Hope everybody hangs in there, do as much business as we're allowed to do with our restrictions, and we want everybody to be successful. And with that, we probably won't see most of you until after Christmas. So I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Thanks for this group. Thank you, Dr. Ryan and Troy, for being on with us to keep us informed and guided of how we continue to move forward in Clear Creek County. Yep, go ahead.
Are we going to have a meeting next Monday, Mike? I'm sorry.
Sure. Let's. I would like to catch up to see how the 25% capacity is going. So yeah, let's have a meeting, our regular meeting next Monday. Okay.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, Mark.
Just for a second, thanks again for inviting me to your weekly meetings. They are incredibly helpful, and I think Craig and Amanda see how great you guys are and proactive. I'd also like to take a moment to thank the county. The grants that are the grants that they put out recently are going to make a huge difference for us and keep a lot of our staff employed over the winter. So thank you all very much for that.
All right, thanks for those comments, Mark. And thanks CDPHE for giving us a little break on our license this year. And you say it's not much, Troy, but I will be first to say, $385 right now will help me. That will be something that will help. So I just want to let you know it does help. All right, folks. Thanks again. Have a good holiday, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, Mike.
Have a great weekend.